This is Dustin with Timber Ridge Sale Company, and welcome to our new YouTube channel. On this channel, we plan on showcasing the process we take to build our custom tables, as long as giving you guys tips and tricks on building your own tables. For those of you who don't know, this is Mason. Mason's been working here for about 5 months now. He recently mentioned to me that he wanted to build a custom desk for his home, and so I thought that might be a great idea to make a video of that. So here we are with our first YouTube video, thanks to Mason.
No problem.
Mason went with these maple slabs that had a lot of character to it, and also some spalting throughout. Spalting is a really cool natural feature that can happen to maple. It's actually fungus growing onto the tree once it's died, and it creates these unique black lines. We were able to receive the entire tree, so Mason had a couple options for it. He ended up going with one of the smaller slabs that was around 6 foot long and 34 inches wide. Once we pick the slab, we then load them up and take them to our other unit. This is where we will start the woodworking process. The first step is to flatten them with our jointed wood flattening machine. What makes our machine different from CNC machines is a 12-inch planer and sander head that rides on a 15-foot by 72-inch track. We love the size of the machine, and we can fit both of the slabs at the same time. Since the machine also has a drum sander on the back of it, it saves a lot of time when it comes to hand sanding. After flattening the slab, it was time to cut the waterfall. To cut this, we used a large Makita saw and clamped down a straight edge. Cutting a waterfall might look difficult, but it's pretty simple. The first cut is a 45-degree cut across the slab. After making the first cut, you will then line the track up to the top of the waterfall piece. Doing this will make a continuous grain down the side of the piece. We were able to do this in a single cut, and it came out perfect. Once both cuts were made, it was time to do the joinery. For this, we used our Domino from Festool. We absolutely love this tool as it speeds up the joinery process while giving great strength to the piece. After the holes are drilled out, we need to test fit the dominoes. This technique is floating tenon joinery. This means holes are drilled on each side and a tenon is tapped into the holes, in this case with a clamp and not a hammer. Once the dominoes are in, it's time to test fit the two pieces. The dominoes are very snug, so you need to give it a couple taps, and then once the seam looks good, it's time to take it back apart to start the glue up. We'd like to fill in each hole with glue, then put the dominoes in. Once they are in, we will spread the glue around the surrounding areas. Be sure to use a lot of glue. You can never use too much of it, and if you make a mess, you can always sand it off. We are using F-clamps and the cutoff pieces from the initial 45-degree cut to clamp it. We then use the blue tape trick to attach the cutoff pieces. This is where you attach blue tape to the project and apply C8 glue to the top of the tape and the cutoff pieces. After we flatten the slab, we begin to remove the bark. We do this with all of our projects because naturally the bark wants to fall off after it's kiln dried since it loses its moisture content. The best way we found to remove it is by taking a chisel and removing the bulk of it. Then we take the wire wheel that's attached to the angle grinder to help remove the membrane and get it close to its final product. After most of it's removed, we then take the restorer to help soften the edges and make it look more natural. Another way we like to round over the edges by taking an angle grinder with a cutting wheel on it. You can also see me shaping the edges to where the glue up didn't line up with each other. After working on the edge of the piece, it was time to start working on the center. I used a wire wheel and a drill and a chisel to start cleaning the natural void. The wire wheel is great for getting into tight spaces and giving it a natural look. Now I need to clean out the voids to get ready for the epoxy. For small cracks like these, we like to use a dental tool, chisels, and Total Boat quick drying epoxy. This epoxy will cure in 4 to 8 hours so we can work on it later that day. I also went with the black epoxy since I didn't want it to draw too much attention to the voids. While the epoxy was drying, Mason went ahead and started to cut his slab down in size. He ended up using her Makita saw and a straight edge to cut this. His slab thickness was over 2 inches, so we wouldn't be able to cut it all the way through with our track saw. Mason then began to round over the edges with the Milwaukee router. This gives the table a nice, clean, and finished look while also making it safer by getting rid of the sharp edges. Mason routed 3 of the sides since he cut a straight edge on the back side to make sure the table was flush against the wall. After the epoxy was cured, I was able to start doing the final sanding. I used our Festool Rotex sander. This is one of the best sanders on the market due to the speed at which it can sand and the safety the vacuum has, making almost no dust. I bought this tool the first 6 months I was in business and was amazed at the time that was saved and the quality of sanding versus the other brand I was using. I definitely recommend this sander to anyone trying to take their woodworking to the next level. For these pieces with very little amount of epoxy, we like to sand up to 120 grit. After we are finished sanding, We then water pop the slabs. This is one of my favorite parts of woodworking since you finally get to see the character of the wood come to life. The reason to water pop the wood is to reopen the wood's pores that were originally closed while sanding. This also allows deeper saturation of color and also helps give the finish we use more protection. While the water was drying, we need to start on the other table leg. We first flattened one side on our joiner wood flat machine. Once the one side was flattened, we took it to our planer to do the other side. We did this because the piece was less than 25 inches wide. After the piece was flattened, it was time to cut it down to size. We used the track saw to cut a straight edge. When using the track saw, we like to make 2 separate passes. The saw isn't a high-powered tool, so making 2 passes causes less burn marks and better accuracy. After we had one straight edge, we took the piece to the table saw to cut it to the right width. After cutting it to size, we needed to sand it to 120 grit. When sanding, the best method you can use is called cross-hatching. This will help reduce swirl marks throughout the piece, giving it a better look when finished. After sanding the legs, it's time to make the brackets. We are using 2 angle iron pieces that will attach to the legs to make sure there is no wobble in the desk. We start off by cutting the brackets down to size using our chop saw. The chop saw leaves a rugged edge, so we will have to take them to the grinder to round over the edges and sand the piece. Next, we drill 4 oversized holes for the bolts. Wood naturally moves throughout the year, so it's necessary to drill these holes bigger to allow for it. Now it's time to put on a finish. We are using an LED hard wax oil made by Vesting. This hard wax oil is very similar to others like Rubino Monocoat, but instantly cures with an LED light. We apply the finish with a red pad on our gem polisher. This pad heats up the finish and lets it soak down into the wood. Then we take a white pad to remove the excess. After the oil is spread around, we take our LED light across it and instantly cures the first coat. We normally do 2 to 3 coats in a span of an hour versus waiting an entire day to put another coat on. The second coat creates a ton of sheen and really brings out the character of the wood. The last step of every table build is attaching the table leg. We use the threaded insert to attach all of our table legs. We like to add blue tape to the drill so we know how deep we go in. Then we take a stepping bolt to taper the holes so there's no tear out when drilling the inserts in. Last, we take an Allen bolt and thread them in by hand so we don't over tighten them or strip in the bolt. Also, in buying table legs, don't go with the cheapest companies. Mason learned this the hard way because now he has a wobbly desk. We were super pleased about the character and spalting in these maple slabs, and are super excited for future projects using different slabs from the same tree. Also want to give a big shout out to Mason, as this was his first project that he did 100% on his own. He definitely crushed it by turning a rough looking slab into a piece of artwork. As much as I do like the way the maple desk turned out, I absolutely love the way this desk turned out. Walnut is definitely my favorite wood, so building a piece like this gives me a lot of joy. The natural voids in this piece and the continuous grain of the waterfall really sets it apart from others. We would love to hear your guys' opinion on which desk is your favorite. And if you're interested in a walnut desk or looking for a custom piece, you can reach out to us via Instagram or email at Timberridge Table Co. or at sales@timberridgetables.com. If you enjoyed our video and like to support our channel by liking and subscribing, that'll be greatly appreciated. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this is our first ever YouTube video, so if you could follow along with us as we learn and get better. Also, if you have any recommendations to help us get better, we would love to hear them. We hope to see you next time.